Thank you, Senator McAllister. Senator Smith.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Deputy President. The announcement this morning and this afternoon of the latest developments in the government's energy policy comes on the back of numerous other policy achievements. At the end of the parliamentary fortnight of this parliament, 4 weeks ago, the government successfully passed its media law reform package. In addition to that, we've had success just today, just this morning, the Foreign Minister having successfully argued, campaigned across the globe to make sure that Australia had a seat at the Human Rights Council at the United Nations. And Senator Urquhart's contribution was to reflect on Julie Bishop, the member for Curtin, the Foreign Minister, how she wasn't completely aware of the details of this policy, not even having the decency, the graciousness to acknowledge the great work she had been doing with her number one priority, which is, of course, managing the foreign affairs and the foreign affairs of this country. But, ladies and gentlemen, we could have climate peace in our time. We could have climate peace in our time, and it's beholden only on the attitudes of those on the other side, because there's a very, very clear choice here. They can choose to accept the expert advice, which was made clear, the blueprint which was laid out in the Finkel Review, and I'll come to that in a moment, or they can choose not to trust the experts. And Senator McAllister, some experts are more expert than others, I'm afraid. Some experts are more expert than others. And I suggest that the experts that the government has gathered together on energy policy are the right experts to be listening to. More expert than you, and dare I say more expert than myself and many, many senators in this place. But before I get to the Finkel Review, because this is very, very important, the Energy Security Board was a deliberate, conscious, well-thought-out recommendation of the Finkel Review. But before I come to that, Labor senators in this place have been keen to scoff at the suggestion that Australian residential energy consumers will be $100 to $115 better off a year as a result of the energy reforms of this government. They scoff at that. Let me remind you that under the carbon tax in my home state of Western Australia, residential consumers would have been $134 a year worse off under Labor's carbon tax policy. So all I do this afternoon is implore Labor senators to go back to the evidence. For those of you that watch Question Time, you might recall that over the last few weeks, the last few months, Labor has been quick to criticise the government for not accepting each and every one of the Finkel Review recommendations. Today, the Prime Minister has announced, after very careful consideration, a plan that builds on a very specific recommendation of that Finkel Review. And to make it easy for people who might be listening at home or listening or watching in the gallery, all you need to do is to go to page 26 of the Finkel Review. Page 26 of the Finkel Review, recommendation 7.2, under the title of Stronger Governance, makes it very clear. The Finkel Review says that the COAG, the Council of Australian Governments, the COAG Energy Council should immediately agree to establish an Energy Security Board to have responsibility for the implementation of the blueprint and for providing whole-of-system oversight for energy security and reliability. It says the Energy Security Board should be provided with the necessary funding to operate. The Energy Security Board should be comprised of the independent chair, supported by an independent deputy chair, with the chief executive of the Australian Energy Market Operator and the chairs of the Australian Energy Regulator and the Australian Energy Market Commission as members. It goes on to say, as part of the same recommendation, administrative support for the Energy Security Board should be provided by the Australian Energy Market Operator. Now, why is that recommendation 7.2 important? Because it is the Energy Security Board that has advised the government and recommended the National Energy Guarantee. The government has chosen to trust the experts, because this is an area where experts can and should be trusted. Now, for those people who are interested, and I invite Senator McKim, you might like to start with this in your contribution, for a more thorough explanation about why it is that the Energy Security Board is necessary, you only need to go to page 157, Senator McKim, page 157 of the Finkel Review, to see why this is an important
Thank you,
and
Senator
solid
Smith.
first
Your
step
time
in
has
providing
expired.
reliable energy to Australian.
Senator Smith, your time has expired.